Good morning, students. In the series of lectures through video during this period of lockdown, we are going to study Sheridan's rivals. Richard Brinsley Sheridan is one of the most important playwrights of the 18th century. The Rivals is a very interesting play producing so much laughter. The topic of lecture today is The Rivals as an Anti-Sentimental Comedy. The Rivals is a comedy written in reaction to the vogue of sentimental comedy in which Goldsmith has pointed out the virtues of the private life are exhibited rather than the vices exposed. Folly instead of being ridiculed is commended. It aims at touching our passions without the power of being truly pathetic. Both Goldsmith and Sheridan composed plays to restore the comic stage to the genuine tradition of laughter, fun, and satire. Goldsmith made a bid to revive the spirit of Shakespearean comedy in which wit is not opposed to emotion. She stoops to conquer illustrates this. Sheridan had for his model the comedy of manners. He takes the fashionable world of Bath, its love intrigue and gay sprightliness. Jeremy Roy has pointed out sentimentality had been reducing laughter in favor of admiration and on the stage for many years, turning potential comedy into demonstrations of domestic virtue. The sentimental comedy tended towards a happy outcome molded by the concept of poetic justice. Sheridan wrote comedies, The Rivals, The Critic, and The School for a Scandal, inflicting vehement invective upon sentimental characters in his own plays and introducing realistic life scintillating with wit and humor. In The Way of the World by Congreve, we find that Mirabelle can marry Millamant only when her aunt Lady Wishford gives her consent. If he marries against her will, Millamant will become his bride, but without dowry. So he contrives an intrigue. His servant Betwell is to pose as the fictitious uncle of Mirabelle. Betwell, disguised as Sir Roland, makes advances of love to Lady Wishfort. Lady Wishfort is entrapped. Similarly, here in The Rivals, Lydia Languish is a peculiar romantic character and the heroine. She is inspired by the sentimental novels to effect an elopement with a poor person. She will rather marry a half-penny ensign than the son of a rich baron. She wants to elope with her poor lover to Scotland and marry him there. If she succeeds in marrying against the will of her aunt, Mrs. Malaprop, she will lose her share in inheritance. Carried away by her romantic perversity, she insists on forfeiting her legacy by deliberately defying her aunt. She belongs, in this respect, to that class of lovers with Shakespeare's Olivia and Shaw's Rana who luxuriate in a world of glorious unreality. Captain Absolute, the lover of Lydia, is not a romantic sentimental fool to lose the inheritance of Lydia. He is driven to resort to a stratagem to win this lady of a singular taste. He stoops to conquer, for he has to maneuver delicately to win the lady without letting her lose her considerable legacy by her romantic idiosyncrasy. Assuming the name of Ensign Beverley, he courts Lydia. In doing so, he finds himself unwittingly set in the rivalry against his real self. The novelty of the rivalry here of Captain Absolute against his imaginary self contributes to the delightfully comic situations in the play. This fantastic rivalry is further complicated by what of Bob Acres, whose suit is provided by Mrs. Malapro. It is also complicated by the love of Sir Lucius, who is misled by Lucy to suppose that the lady who writes love letters to him, singing herself Delia, is Lydia. Thus, much laughter proceeds from misunderstanding and love intrigue. Nowhere do we find that the scene has become pathetic as we find in a sentimental comedy. The love intrigue is further complicated by the subplot of the abortive duel. Captain Absolute finds himself in a fantastic predicament. His own stratagem turns upon himself. He has to be in Lydia's presence in the dual capacities of Beverley and Absolute at the same time. Situations become more interesting when Lydia understands Captain Absolute's voice to be the voice of Beverley. Lydia is sad to think that she has been befooled and all her dreams of the romantic escapade is shattered. Her plan is foiled because Beverley turns out to be Captain Absolute, the choice of her aunt Mrs. Malapro. In the last act, Lydia tells Julia there had a projected one of the most sentimental elopements. Her disappointment does not move our pity, and so Sheridan's representation of the case of Lydia is anti-sentimental. It simply amuses us. Lydia refuses to marry Captain Absolute, but when she comes to know that the life of her lover is in danger, she rushes to the spot along with Julia and Mrs. Malapro and accepts him as her lover. In this way, Lydia's true feelings ultimately triumphs over the sentimental stuff acquired from books. Bob Acres is inspired by Sir Lucius to challenge his rival Beverley to a duel. In the manner current at the time, Sir Lucius talks of honor and valor. Bob Acres challenges Beverley without knowing who he is, but he feels frightened when the real moment of test comes. He refuses to fight although Sir Lucius calls him a coward. Thus Sheridan ridicules the sentimental comedy of his time and presents a healthy, realistic attitude. He laughs at sentimental elopements and duels for the sake of honor and upholds love that breaks no duty or requires no killing. Julia and Falkland story intended to be a comment on the sentimental love. Julia trembles perilously on the brink of the sentimental stream. She is the pale heroine of a state romance. She glorifies the virtue of constancy in love, a feature of a feature of sentimental comedy. Falkland is a sentimental lover. He thinks that a moment of happiness on the part of a lover in the absence of his beloved is an act of treachery. His sentimental attitude to love is obvious here. Women are not used to weigh and separate the motives of their affections. The cold dictates of prudence, gratitude, or filial duty may sometimes be mistaken for the pleadings of the heart. That is, Falkland is a typical jealous lover, cherishing sentimental notions of love. Obsessed as he is by his queer notions of love, he gives her a world of troubles. He makes himself rest while torturing her and testing her fidelity. The reconciliation is the proof of her constancy. This shows that Sheridan, despite his best efforts, failed to dismiss sentimentalism completely. Rees has pointed out the Rivals is a comedy of manners which invites us to laugh at the social conventions of the duel. But the Rivals, besides dealing with social convention of duels, laughs at the sentimental vein in drama. Written in reaction to the vogue of the sentimental comedy, this play is a mighty effort in the direction of turning the comic stage once more to the genuine tradition of laughter, fun, and satire. Despite the hazing and restriction adopted to minimize the effect and appeal of the sentimental comedy, Sheridan could not entirely dispense with it. The model which he had in his mind was the restoration comedy of wit. Thank you.